Thank you, Abhishek. That was I think it was a little too much of a welcome. I can assure you one thing that you do not need your sunglasses. Please feel comfortable. But I think before I start, I simply cannot start without congratulating Salil and Suvarna. Beautiful story, and Dhanya, amazing transformation. I think it's just commendable and simply amazing. So fantastic job, guys. Okay, great. So my name is Madhur. We are Madhur and Sheetal. And today, a very interesting topic. And some of us know about it, some of us do not know about it, some of us partly know about it. But let's sort of just dig into that and know better, right? So, how many of you sort of get jitters when you are eating carbs? Could you maybe just type something on the chat if you're absolutely okay with carbs, or you sort of get a little worried that, okay, fine, I'm eating more carbs, less carbs, I'm not sure what carbs, right? I'm seeing some messages coming in, and fantastic. So we'll try to understand a little bit about what this carbs is, right? And maybe debunk some myths along the way, and just in the next maybe 15 minutes or so, right? Okay, and I've presented my screen, so let's just get started, right? Fantastic. So, the title is Carbohydrates or Carbs. Is it a friend or a foe, basically, right? Um, so, what are carbs, right? It's one of the three macronutrients that we get from food, that is carbs, proteins, and fats. That's what our body gets. And for those chemistry nerdy kind of people, this is how it looks like. It's made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. And simple carbs has the X and Y are same. Complex carbs, they are different, and so on. But that's how chemically it looks like. And typically, there are three kinds of carbs, right? You have the sugars, you have starch, and then you have fiber, which is largely insoluble, right? Um, and they are the main source of energy in our body, right? So please do not stop having them. The main source of energy for our body, and it helps in various aspects of human body function. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we go ahead, right? And please understand, all carbs get converted to sugars in the process of digestion, right? So I come across many people, especially diabetics, who says, हम तो चीनी नहीं खाते हैं, right? We don't eat sugar, and चाय में चीनी नहीं लेते हैं, that's okay. But वो चार पराठा एंड एक पूरा थाली भर के राइस, फुल प्लेट ऑफ राइस एंड lot of parathas, and they are carbs actually going in, right? So we have to understand, all carbs get converted into sugars eventually, and that goes into our bloodstream. So now एक बार हम थोड़ा समझ लेते हैं क्या carbs क्या है. तो the next question is कि what are the types of carbs, right? Do not get very sort of overwhelmed, just some names, but for people who are interested, I've just put it here. So typically they are simple carbs, complex carbs. Simple carbs, if they are one molecule of sugar, they're called as monosaccharides. If there are two molecules of sugar, it's called as disaccharides. And if there are complex carbs, which means they're polysaccharides, which means three or more molecules of sugar joined together, right? बाय अ थंब रूल, यूजुअली अगर आप देखें तो पॉलीसैकेराइड्स और कॉम्प्लेक्स कार्ब्स, दे आर बेटर, वो अच्छा होता है ना. बट देयर आर एक्सेप्शंस टू दैट, बट दैट इज हाउ वी शुड कंज्यूम इट, राइट? सो ये थोड़ी सी बात हमने कर ली अबाउट टाइप्स ऑफ कार्ब्स. अब कार्ब्स करता क्या हमारे बॉडी में, व्हाट डज इट डू इन आवर बॉडी, राइट? सो फर्स्ट थिंग इज, इट इज अ फ्यूल फॉर योर, or not your, even mine, body and brain, राइट? तो हमारे शरीर में कितनी सारे काम हो रहे हैं, राइट? इवन इफ यू आर नॉट यू सिटिंग आइडल ऑल्सो, फिर भी हमारे बॉडी में आपका बॉडी का टेम्परेचर मेंटेन करना है, बॉडी टेम्परेचर हैज टू बी मेंटेन्ड, योर ब्रीदिंग हैज टू हैपन, द हार्ट हैज टू पंप, द लंग हैज टू एक्सपैंड एंड कॉन्ट्रैक्ट बाई ब्रीदिंग, यू नो, एट अ सेलुलर लेवल बहुत सारे रिएक्शंस हो रहे हैं. सो देयर सो मेनी थिंग्स विच आर हैपनिंग इवन इफ यू आर नॉट मूविंग, इवन इफ यू आर स्लीपिंग, राइट? तो सबके लिए हमें एनर्जी चाहिए. That energy comes from carbs, right? So for the brain, for the body, it is very, very important to have carbs so that that can convert into glucose, or glucose can be used as a source of energy, right? That's the first thing. सेकेंड थिंग क्या होता है कि जो प्रोटीन स्पारिंग इफेक्ट, इसका मतलब क्या होता है कि व्हेन हमारे बॉडी को जब ग्लूकोज चाहिए, एनर्जी चाहिए, तो इट लुक्स फॉर ग्लूकोज. And if glucose is not available at that time, typically it is stored as glycogen in the liver and little bit in the muscle tissues. जब वो नहीं रहता है, ग्लाइकोजन अवेलेबल नहीं रहता है, then it will go and basically start dissolving the muscles. And वो मसल को डिसॉल्व करके it starts, you know, fulfilling its energy needs for the body. तो अगर आपको अपने प्रोटीन को बचाना है, अपने मसल को बचाना है, तो आपको कार्ब्स, आपके यू शुड हैव एडिक्वेट अमाउंट ऑफ कार्ब्स इन द बॉडी, राइट? ओनली देन यू कैन सेफगार्ड योर लीन मसल, right? Otherwise, you go to the gym, you make a lot of muscles, and then you leave carbs and you lose all those muscles, right? So it doesn't make sense. The third thing is कि it helps in digestion and hydration, right? You know, the fiber, the complex, the fiber part, the complex carbs, they actually become, they are a good source of prebiotic. Prebiotic का मतलब क्या हुआ कि आपके जो gut में, intestine में there are bacteria. You heard of good bacteria, bad bacteria. So those bacteria, they need some food to eat, right? And the fiber is basically a food for them. So it helps to the good bacteria to grow, right? And thereby increasing आपका जो gut का microbiome है, आपका gut का diversity है, उसको increase करता है. It helps to replenish that, and thereby it increases the gut health and digestion. So it's very important for that, है ना? और hydration means once you have carbs, it will also retain water. वाटर एब्जॉर्ब करता है कॉम्प्लेक्स कार्ब्स, और वाटर एब्जॉर्ब करके आपके बॉडी के अंदर हाइड्रेशन के लेवल को बढ़ाता है. सो इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर डाइजेशन एंड हाइड्रेशन दैट यू हैव गुड अमाउंट ऑफ कार्ब्स, राइट? फिर what happens, the carbs, it also helps to produce a hormone in our body called as serotonin, right? आपने सुना होगा, you must have heard serotonin is the happiness hormone, right? Many people try to take it in other ways. Please don't do that. You know, the natural way is the best. But it actually increases the production of serotonin, so thereby you feel good. You know, it's a mood enhancer. आपके स्लीप में बेटर करता है. It also has an impact on the feeling of satiety in the body, right? So it also helps in appetite. So for example, so interesting चीज क्या है कि अगर आप good carbs नहीं खा रहे हैं, if you're not having enough good carbs, it will actually make you less satiated, right? And you may actually end up eating more, right? So it's very good for important for that as well. There are many other things. I mean, I've just captured some of the key functions. कुछ की चीजें मैंने लिखी है यहाँ पे, पर कार्ब्स के और भी बहुत सारे रोल्स हैं हमारे बॉडी के अंदर. ओके, सो अब लेट्स डू सम थिंग्स. हम क्या करेंगे कि हम कुछ मिथ्स के बारे में बात करेंगे. ये मिथ्स जनरली हमको सुनने में मिलता है या हमारे दिमाग में खुद हो सकता है. वी मे बी थिंकिंग अबाउट द सेम थिंग, यू नो, कि दीज आर, इज इट राइट, इज इट रॉन्ग? सो लेट्स टेक अप सम ऑफ दोज थिंग्स एंड टॉक अ लिटिल बिट अबाउट इट, राइट? First one, carbs will make me fat, right? How many of you think it is true? Carbs will make you fat. Can you maybe post on the chat yes if you think it is true, and no if you think it is not true? Yeah, I'm seeing a few chats coming in. Okay, a lot of chats coming in. Okay, good. So let's dig into this. थोड़ा पता करते हैं कि एक्चुअली में क्या है. कार्ब्स अपने में आपको मोटा नहीं बनाता है. कार्ब्स इन देमसेल्व्स डू नॉट मेक यू फैट, राइट? बट अगर आप किस तरह का कार्ब्स खा रहे हैं, व्हाट इज द क्वालिटी ऑफ कार्ब्स दैट यू आर कंज्यूमिंग, इज इट मोर रिफाइंड, और यू आर हैविंग कार्ब्स, ओनली कार्ब्स, यू आर नॉट हैविंग अ बैलेंस्ड मील, then that can lead to certain conditions in the body where it will store, it will be difficult for the body to process it, right? So, but carbs in itself are necessary, but they should be in a whole food form. They should not be refined, and they should be as a balanced meal. They should not be imbalance in the meal, right? अगर हम ये maintain कर रहे हैं, if you're maintaining that, then carbs do not make you fat, right? Okay, good, very good. दूसरा क्या है? All carbs are the same. I can have a fruit, I can have a maybe candy, and दोनों में same amount of carbs लिखा है. We all have become intelligent in reading our food labels. So it is the same thing. So let me just, it's okay. I can eat any of them. No, that's not true, right? Obviously, that's not true. So I'll not ask yes and no, because otherwise it will be insulting your intelligence. So a fruit and a candy with same amount of carbs are not the same in your body, right? We all know that, right? So when you're eating carbs, the focus should be more on the nutrition density of the food you're eating and the quality of carb you're eating, right? And I'll talk about the nutrition density a little later in one of the slides. अगर मुझे रिपीट करना पड़े तो मैं ये बोल रहा हूँ कि आप जो कार्ब्स खा रहे हैं, कार्बोहाइड्रेट्स खा रहे हैं, वो आप जो खाना खा रहे हैं वो कितना, उसमें कितना न्यूट्रिशन है, कितना पोषण है, राइट? उस पर मैटर करता है, और उसका क्वालिटी कैसा है. भाई आप अगर कैंडी खा रहे हैं तो हमको सबको पता है दैट्स अ एम्प्टी कार्ब, नो, दैट डजंट हेल्प इट. बट अगर फ्रूट खा रहे हैं तो इट हैज माइक्रोन्यूट्रिएंट्स, विटामिन्स, मिनरल्स, फाइटोन्यूट्रिएंट्स, फाइबर. सो इट्स अ गुड क्वालिटी ऑफ कार्ब्स, राइट? Good. The third myth is low carb diet is the best. So how many of you think, if I can bother you for a yes and no, if you believe it or do not believe it, yes and no, how many of you think that a low carb diet is the best? Can you maybe put on chat if you believe that low carb diet is the best? You should say yes. Otherwise, you should say no. Low carb diet is the best, right? Okay, so we have some people responding, but let's dig into this. So क्या होता है, when we eat food, our food sort of goes into the stomach, digestion happens, and then it goes into the intestine, and there is broken into various components. One of them is glucose, and the glucose gets absorbed into the bloodstream, intestine say, and when it comes to the bloodstream, some is required for immediate use. Otherwise, it is stored as glycogen in the liver largely, or in the muscles, a small part, for later use. जब हमें बाद में जरूरत पड़े तो glycogen is what gets used. So अगर आपके, if you have adequate stores of glycogen, that helps in burning fat, है ना? ये तो उल्टी बात हो गई, right? So actually adequate amount of carbs, if you have the right quality of carbs and you take adequate amount of carbs, it actually helps you to burn fat, correct? तो अगर आप लो कार्ब डाइट ले रहे हैं बिकॉज मुझे पतला होना है, मुझे मोटा नहीं बनना है, तो एक्चुअली इट विल वर्क अपोजिट, right? You need to have adequate amount of carbs if you want your fat metabolism to work in a proper way. अगर आप अपने फैट को बर्न करना चाहते हैं अपने शरीर के अंदर, तो आपको गुड क्वालिटी कार्ब्स एडिक्वेट अमाउंट में, सटीक मात्रा में आपको लेने की जरूरत है, राइट? इन एब्सेंस ऑफ शुगर्स बॉडी बर्न्स मसल. तो अगर आप कार्ब्स कम खा रहे हैं, इफ यू ईटिंग लेस कार्ब्स, लेस ग्लूकोज, and then when the body needs energy, it will start dissolving, burning muscles, instead of the sugars or the glycogen that it expects to have, right? Also, if you burn a lot of muscles, the creatinine release into the blood increases, because that's the byproduct of protein catabolism or breakdown of protein. And अगर उसका, if that amount increases, it puts a pressure on the kidney. तो अगर आप बहुत कम कार्ब्स खा रहे हैं, बहुत लंबे टाइम तक अगर कम कार्ब्स खा रहे हैं, लो कार्ब डाइट पे हैं, and you will start losing muscle, and that will also put a pressure on the kidney. So it's not a good idea, right? Also, what happens is कि जब हमारा glycogen कम होता है, when our glycogen is less, glycogen, as we said, glycogen is a form of stored glucose in the liver largely. जब ग्लाइकोजन कम है बॉडी में, तो इट विल इंक्रीज कॉर्टिसोल, बिकॉज ब्लड शुगर को मेंटेन करने के लिए बॉडी विल इंक्रीज कॉर्टिसोल, एंड इट विल मेंटेन द ब्लड शुगर, राइट? जब आपका कॉर्टिसोल इंक्रीज होता है, इट्स अ स्ट्रेस हार्मोन. क्रॉनिकली अगर कॉर्टिसोल इंक्रीज हो रहा है, तो इट विल स्टार्ट हैविंग लॉन्ग टर्म साइड इफेक्ट्स. इट विल मेक यू स्ट्रेस्ड, इट विल मेक यू हंग्री. you may start creating hormonal imbalances, and hormonal imbalances are sort of the root cause of any kind of chronic disease that you see today, right? Diabetes, thyroid, PCOD, you name it, it's all around hormonal imbalance. So it's very important that you have a adequate carbs in your diet. Do not fall for a low carb diet for a long period of time, right? Okay, good. Um, so fruits are bad since they have carbs, है ना? कितना लोगों को लगता है कि फ्रूट्स नहीं खाना चाहिए बिकॉज में बहुत सारे कार्ब्स होते हैं, फ्रुक्टोज होता है, सिंपल शुगर होता है, इट्स नॉट गुड, यू नो how many of you believe that it's not good, right? Okay. So that's not true actually, right? Fruits have simple sugars. You remember the monosaccharides, disaccharides, so it has simple sugars. Fructose, it's a kind of a monosaccharide, but they're excellent sources of nutrients like fiber, vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients, right? तो हमने बात की थी कि it comes good carbs, bad carbs. So there's a good kind of a carb, right? So yes, simple sugars, वो glucose, it will release glucose in the bloodstream quickly, but then it has fiber, it has vitamins, minerals. So this will basically have a sustained release of sugar in the bloodstream, glucose in the bloodstream, and they're okay to have. They're good to have, in fact, right? It is a great way to consume water, right? So fruits are almost 80-90% water, most fruits, right? And that's a great way to consume water because when you drink water, it follows a different pathway in the body, and usually it is relieved by the body via urination, right? But when you eat water, which means you eat water rich fruits, जब आप water rich खाना खा रहे हैं, fruits largely, वो water, that water retains further in the body because it goes through a different cycle in the body, right? And it retains the water, and thereby it increases the hydration, correct? So it's a great way to consume water. So you should definitely have fruits, right? Of course, it goes without saying, say somebody is diabetic, so you should not eat high GI fruits and all those things. So those kind of decision has to be done. आपको समझ के लेना पड़ेगा अगर आपके कुछ health conditions है तो. But largely, fruits should not be avoided because they have carbs, right? Okay. ये एक और चीज सुनने को मिलता है कि नो कार्ब्स आफ्टर 6 p.m, राइट? सनसेट के बाद हमें कार्ब्स नहीं खाना चाहिए बिकॉज कार्ब स्टोर हो जाता है, इट डजंट बर्न एंड ऑल दिस थिंग्स. So what is it about true? It's not true actually, right? The metabolism of carbs will happen in the same way. The body does not only stores carbs, it burns it as well after 6 p.m. as well. That is the first thing. The second thing is that so then why are we saying? So obviously you want to have an early dinner. आप अपना dinner जल्दी करना चाहते हैं, maybe around say 7ish, 7:30 max, right? So that the body is still more activity oriented, and you want to have a balanced meal, which means you want to have good quality carbs, complex carbs, like instead of refined carbs, you want to have whole grains, right? You want to have a balanced meal, so you have adequate amount of protein and fat and fiber and everything else along with the carbs that you're eating. But if you can do that, अगर आप वो maintain करते हैं, so carbs 6 p.m. के बाद खाने में कोई problem नहीं है, right? Okay. Good. So these are 5 myths that I picked up. There are many other myths, but these are the ones that sort of we see coming on and off in our discussion with various people. So I hope this makes sense, right? Just a couple of more slides before we conclude. So there is something called as aggregate nutrition density index, right? And we were talking a while back about having nutrient rich food. So this is one index which was developed by Dr. Joel Furman way back a few years back, and this is what it shows. So what it shows various foods, right? And then next to it gives a rating from 1 to 1,000, right? 1,000 means that it is the most nutrient rich food. 1 means that it is the least nutrient rich food. अगर स्कोर 1,000 है कोई खाने का, कोई फूड का स्कोर 1,000 है, मतलब कि उसका न्यूट्रिशन का जो न्यूट्रिशन उसमें जितना है वो सबसे ज्यादा है, और अगर वो 1 है मतलब उसमें सबसे कम न्यूट्रिशन है, राइट? This is, of course, not a holistic list. I mean, there are many more that can be there, so you can Google it if you want. But if you can obviously see, the leftmost column is basically the the nutrition dense, more dense food, right? And then on the right side, if you see, they are the least nutrition dense food in that sense, right? According to this index. So why I wanted to show you this is because, say, for example, it's possible I can pick up something from the left column and something from the right column, and they both may have same amount of carbs. करेक्ट, मैं लेफ्ट कॉलम से कुछ उठा सकता हूँ, राइट कॉलम से आई कैन पिक अप अ थिंग, और दोनों में सेम लेवल ऑफ कार्बोहाइड्रेट्स हैं, बट दोनों का इफेक्ट हमारे बॉडी में विल बी वेरी वेरी डिफरेंट, बिकॉज एक लेफ्ट वाला जो है दैट इज वेरी न्यूट्रिशन डेंस, राइट इज मोर और लेस एम्प्टी carbs, kind of, it's not a good quality carbs, right? So I hope that makes sense. So what is the final verdict actually on carbs, right? We all know by now. So carbs are absolutely, absolutely necessary for our bodies. Please, please do not fall for low carb diets for long, long periods of time, right? You don't want to have dinner today. You want to go for just for a soup or something. That's okay, but not for long periods of time. Go for complex carbs. We talked about it. Go for nutrition dense carbs. We talked about it. So अगर आप carbs, complex carbs, nutrition dense carbs, अगर आप वो उस तरह के carbs खा रहे हैं, then you are absolutely good. There is nothing to worry, right? Have a balanced meal. That is very important, right? खाली carbs से नहीं चलेगा. आपको उसके साथ में protein, vitamins, minerals, good fats. You need a balanced meal, right? That is what the body expects. And last but not the least, please enjoy your food instead of super analyzing it, right? We have had people coming to us for health consultations where they live their life with the measuring cup. Okay, I ate 30 grams of rice today, I ate 25 grams of dal today, and so on, right? So do not super analyze your food. Just get the right principles, few basic right principles, and you should enjoy your food, because that is what the food is for. The food is not it's not just a commodity, it's a living thing that nourishes our lives. So we need to have a certain kind of a relationship with food, and not just look at it as a commodity and a scientific element where you just super analyze it and see what is right and what is not right, right? So with that, I am done. And thank you so much for being a lovely audience. And Abhishek, back to you.